Yeah, the biggest thing I would say with my journey is blogging. Blogging is a huge first step because if you haven't already written a book or don't have a writing repertoire, blogs are a great, safe way. You can do it very inexpensively. I personally have used the website that I had where I had my characters. I was using that to post my blogs, and I simply use a Word doc. So it's of minimal cost to me. I use Canva sometimes when I'm creating, where I'm adding my logo to my images. But even then, if you have your iPhone, you can take great images or just have a scanner. So the tools involved with blogging don't really occur a lot of extra cost if you're already creating your business or if you already have these things on hand. It also is a safe way to experiment your writing, experiment your style, get a flow of how you like to write, get your ideas out there. The other big piece of children's writing, which I don't think other writers are always aware of off the bat, there needs to be a mission. The reason why I've been able to build a team and get to the point where I'm able to effectively pitch myself to you, to podcasters like you and others, is because I had a mission. Our editors and marketing strategists, etc., people that are really going to get you in front of podcasters, really help you develop your vision, they need to see a message there from the start.
Welcome, everyone. I'm clicking buttons and doing all the things here. We might hear the occasional car honk, but that's okay. That's like ambient thing. That's like fun, right? We all have neighbors. It's so great to have my guest with me today. If you see us on video, you're going to see in the background some amazing characters. Look at them all. Oh, gosh. They're so amazing. Not only can my guest make these amazing creatures and creations that your kids would love. I think I'm going to actually pick one of the giraffes, but my guest can do this. She can write. She can do all these things. And she's our guest today. Kristina's with us. Kristina, how are you?
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here and have this conversation with you.
So to make time today, I really appreciate that. We're here to talk about podcasting. Like in our podcast, we're talking about your book. We're talking about all the things you're up to. And, it's exciting to kind of get a chance to talk to you because what you're doing is amazing how you're tying in actual creations you're making with writing. Like this is a great bridge that you're doing. And I'm enthralled by this. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's actually ironic you say that because my friend Liz, who we were talking about before we started recording, is also a children's author. And she pointed out something to me. She said, you're really lucky. And my strategist, Melanie, said the same thing. You have a gift, meaning that, and Melanie said it very concisely. She said, you're one of those people that has an idea and you can just go and create it. Yeah. And it's true. I am gifted in that way. I write my books, I illustrate my books, and I also create the toys behind me. And the beauty of creating the toys behind me, as I develop this and as I realize I need to find alternate ways to create the characters and develop the characters, being able to create these initial character samples, being able to set that foundation of this is the color scheme, this is how the eyes look, these are the yes or no's, and be able to physically show that to somebody is really great. And I'm very grateful for that, and I'm grateful that I'm able to set this example because I do have a lot of kids in my network that are also creators, that are also artists, and being able to demonstrate that you can create a world with your art. You can create a career with your art. And I think that's been a really big thing that I've learned in my path. And that's been really beautiful for me so far.
It's amazing. So tell me a little bit about how the idea for the book actually began.
Yeah. So the book actually began very early on, although I couldn't identify it. That was a big piece of it. When I first started this company, a friend of mine had seen my work, and I started off as a crocheter. I started off as crocheting blankets and loveys. And the very first stuffed animal I created was actually for a friend's daughter, because he and his wife were having their second baby. And I actually gifted the first blanket I ever crocheted. I gifted to this little girl, Allie. And I thought, oh, well, you're a parent, you need to do both ways. You know what I mean? Like, you need to catch, I apologize. I probably should have, assumed, but you know what I mean? Like, we all know as aunts and uncles and whatnot, you do something for one, you do something for the other. And that's how the first stuffed animal came. And so when his friend saw my work, I had a plethora. She said, there is a business here. And when I first declared this company, people gave me a hard time. They're like, you may find out to make them beyond yourself. It could be too costly, blah, blah, blah. And I held my ground because I knew the characters would lead me to an answer. I knew the tangibility of them, and having them there, they would lead me to something bigger than me. And the first step I did when I created them is I named them. I named them after people in my life, and they're not featured in my background, but the first two characters I created they're actually on my website. They are two teddy bears, and they have blankets and, bunny slippers. And they're named after both my grandma and my grandfather.
Nice.
Now I'm Kristina Lucia because I'm named after my grandma, Lucy. So the first bear I ever made was after my grandma, Lucy, because I am her namesake. And then the teddy bear, Eddie, after my grandfather.
Eddie.
And it gave me that spark to kind of start telling a little story behind each and start playing with that idea. And when I started working on my messaging, with someone I'm no longer working with this person, but they did give me an up on my messaging. I realized working with them, I needed to write a children's series, because at that point I had been blogging. The characters led me to blogging, and I've always been a storyteller. I've always loved telling a good story. And then I realized working on my messaging, I was like, oh, I need to write a book. And I realized it was going to be a series. And the more I realized it with children's series, the book is really a foundation. And when I declared myself to write a book, I knew I was going to illustrate that. That was a given. I've always been an artist. I've been in formal art lessons since I'm 7.5 years old,
Wow.
training from a very young age. And parents out there know, when you have kids in art lessons, you realize it's a lot more than just picking out a color. Art is a very complex, technique in it is very complex. And I was fortunate that I had a teacher that took me under her wing very early on. And from starting to write and illustrate the books, that led me to start storyboarding. And I was like, well, this is a coloring book. I need to start doing that. And this is actually the first time I'm saying this openly on the podcast, but I did officially decide to self-publish my books.
Nice.
So they are coming out in spring 2023. The first, there will be 15 in all. Wow. I will have by first quarter of next year, I will have 5 illustrated and written. I'm actually planning on having book 4 and 5 fully written by the end of this year, and book 4 fully illustrated. So book 5, I'm tagging on to the beginning of next year, and that way. But one will be officially for sale, available for spring 2023. So I'm super stoked about that. That's amazing. Yeah, that's how it started. And I do actually have Bella beside me.
There you go.
She is the main character of my series and a child version of myself. And I'm really excited for you to get to know her better through the books.
I love this. Okay, so you do have books available right now. Are they the coloring books at this point?
They are the coloring books at this point. Right now, I have digital versions of that. Okay. And when I say digital, I mean a PDF download. My reason for doing that is I wanted to figure out the publishing route. I wanted to figure out a printer. I wanted quality over quantity. And I also wanted a solid marketing structure, a solid flow as to how these are being distributed. What's my best self? I do also have, for your audience, I do have a free coloring drawing, which I would love to share with them.
Awesome.
As well. And I have some other freebies coming out in the holiday season, which I'll of course be sharing with all of you as well. But I do have that. So yes, so I do have the coloring drawing, and I actually am working also on a download holiday cookbook. When I first, right when I was declaring, right when I declared I'm going to write my children's series, I actually, for influencers, I created a holiday coloring, holiday coloring book, a holiday cookbook, excuse me, because I love to bake.
Yeah.
I'm a huge baker. And it's a combination of illustrations and also, pictures of my other lovies and characters. And there is a story behind each. So that was my first step at a book. So for this season, I decided to release it again as a PDF download. But again, as I'm pursuing this first book coming out in print, that's also in the works too, that there will be a printed version of that available in time to come. But again, I see the PDF download as a safe way for me to test the waters and get things going. Because like I said, if I'm going to print something to sell to a consumer, I want it to be the best quality possible. Nice. I want it to be fine-tuned. I want it to be there. And I feel like right now with the PDF download, it gives me room for edits. It gives me room to hear from my audience. Like, what recipes are you really looking for? Because I don't know about the women in your family or the men in your family, but I'm a hardcore baker. I mean, I do rainbow cookies, I do French macaroons, and that may be a little much for some moms and dads out there and aunts and uncles. So that's the thing too, is I'm also gauging, well, do people want more cookie recipes? Do they want more cake recipes? Cause I've done it all. I make my own cannoli shells from scratch and my own cannoli creams. So that, again, that's a much more complicated.
Yeah. I love
but
it.
Again, I want to be able to hear from you and others. But hey, Kristina, I really like this, but I'm really looking for like a peanut butter cookie recipe because I personally don't like peanut butter. It's not something I put in the book because it's one of the few things in the world I don't like. But again, you want room for that editing. You want room to hear from your audience. Like, oh, what are they really looking for? So, when I do my next round, I have this version, I have the next version in print too. And maybe it focuses just on cookies, or maybe it focuses just on cakes. And in the meantime, there will be more storybooks as well next year that I'm hoping to release as well. Yeah.
I like the flexibility of having those PDFs because you can update them anytime you want, right? It's
exactly.
not like a box of books you have beside you that you now have to sell and ship.
Yes.
And package them up and send them around the world. You can just go to the website and hit download and bang, you got it, right? And it's very environmentally friendly too, by the way.
Exactly. Nice. Exactly. And that's the other thing too, which also thinking of this day and age, like I'm an old fashioned girl. Like I still go to the library and read and like a solid book in my hands, but we are in an age where people are on their phones more often and we're on the computer or we're on our iPads. And I've talked to a lot of moms that prefer their recipes on their Kindle or on their iPad. Yeah. And that was my other inclination, because even when I do the print option, I will always have the digital option. And same thing with the coloring books. Like I have friends that have toddlers and they say, this is actually really great because I can reprint and reprint, because at least my sister tells me too, the ripping and the tearing and whatnot. And but they still have that tangibility, and the mom and the father still have that flexibility, being able to print things and, having that. So that's also why too, I do plan to always have both the digital and both the printed version available. So that way I'm able to suffice the needs of my audience in a fuller way.
Amazing. And on top of all of that goodness, you also have the characters as well, which we can get. So that's quite unique. I haven't had anyone on the podcast that has this great combination of what you're doing. And I think you've built a really great foundation for a business. How long does it take you to make one of these characters? I can't imagine. And I talked to my wife, Jennifer, she crochets and knits. And again, she's like so excited for this interview. But how long does it take to make like Bella, for example?
Bella, I would give myself a day. If I can focus on her, I can create her in a day. My flow is when I'm creating is usually I budget to create 2 to 3 things at once, meaning I might create 3 lovies at once or 3 characters at once. And I am in New York City. I am in a city. So what I'm able to do is I'm able to take parts of them with me. So while I'm on the subway, I'm able to crochet or knit as I go. I do, if someone is coming to me and I don't have something ready made, like I do feel, because my books are about communication. So I will communicate that to you. If I don't have it ready to go out immediately, I will say, give me a week. And I know within that week, I know me, I'm an overachiever. I know I'll have it finished for the week timeline I've given you, but it also gives you room for error. Because God forbid something comes up where like I can't create that day, or, you know, I need to work on another aspect of my business. So that is kind of how I do it. With that said, and it is something that's in the back of my head, like, oh gosh, like, how am I going to do this? Like, I do realize that I will, like, I have the digital and the print versions of my books. Like, that's where I'm heading with my books right now. I do see the versions of my characters I create and the manufactured version of my characters. Now, with that said, like with the printing option, I won't just sign up with anybody. I want to make sure the quality is there. I want to make sure the details are there.
Yeah.
For me, the handmade aspect of me creating it. And I realize as this business grows, I may not be able to turn around things as quickly. I may need people to give me more leeway in that sense, but I do feel strong about always having that handmade portion, because there is something dear to it, and seeing the children in my life that do have my creations and seeing how they gravitate towards it. I think there's something when you create something with love, when you children and even as adults, we do sense something. There is something special about something that you create, and people do sense it. I actually had a beautiful moment with my nephew a couple of weeks ago when I was visiting. As I mentioned, I'm a baker, and, you know, I baked my biscotti and I baked my hazelnut dark chocolate cookies to bring. And I sat down on the sofa and I'm about to eat one of my cookies, and my nephew, who's going to be 2 in less than a month, comes toddling up and starts eating the cookie I have in my lap. And I was so touched, because I was like, oh my gosh, he's eating something I baked. He's going and he ate the whole cookie. And I was like, wow, he's consuming my love. Like it was this beautiful circle. And I feel the same way when I see him play with the toys and ornaments that I've made for him. Like, I've watched him go up to the Christmas tree and play with an ornament I made for him that I gifted him when he was only 2 months old. I mean, he's still at that age where he doesn't necessarily know, oh, Aunt Kristina baked this, or Aunt Kristina made this, but I'm already seeing him connect to that. And I've seen it with my other friends' kids too. And it's really, really beautiful. And seeing that, I wouldn't want to rob other children of that experience either. So that is something, is having that 2 lane, but making sure they're both within line and the quality is there is extremely, extremely important to me.
Amazing. Yeah. So what would you say to somebody that's interested in writing a children's book? What kind of wisdom can you give to somebody who's brand new to this? They have a great idea. They want to build a business around their book, like you're doing.
Yeah.
Any things that you have learned, or anything you might have approached differently, possibly?
Yeah. The biggest thing I would say with my journey is blogging. Okay. Blogging is a huge first step, because if you haven't already written a book or don't have a writing repertoire, blogs are a great, safe way. You can do it very inexpensively. I personally have used the website that I had where I had my characters. I was using that to post my blogs, and I simply use a Word doc. So it's of minimal cost to me. Yeah. I use Canva sometimes when I'm creating, where I'm adding my logo to my images. But even then, if you have your iPhone, you can take great images or just have a scanner. So there are the tools involved with blogging don't really, occur a lot of extra cost if you're already creating your business, or if you already have these things on hand. It also is a safe way to experiment your writing, experiment your style, get a flow of how you like to write, get your ideas out there. The other big piece of children's writing, which I don't think other writers are always aware of off the bat, there needs to be a mission. The reason why I've been able to build a team and get to the point where I'm able to effectively pitch myself to you, to podcasters like you and others, is because I had a mission. Our editors and marketing strategists, etc., people that are really going to get you in front of podcasters, really help you develop your vision. They need to see a message there from the start. Otherwise, it's almost like driving a car without a paved road. Yeah. There needs to be that there. And that's a huge, huge piece of it. I feel with children's too, we get overwhelmed with the things, we get overwhelmed with the toys and the different styles of books and whatnot. But behind every successful writer, behind every successful line, there's a mission and there's something bigger. And I do credit that to one of my idols, Fred Rogers. Like he really sealed the bow on what I wanted to do with these characters before I even knew the books were coming. And
yes.
That was really big. That was really powerful for me. And that's how I discovered the mission of my books, for example, is communication.
Yeah.
It's communication and humanity. And being able to talk to each other about our feelings and being able to effectively listen to each other. And the beauty with kids is that kids can so easily strip away all the things, all the drama, all the baggage we can carry around. And when we strip away the politics and the religion, the sexual orientations and where we live, how we were brought up, and we really talk to each other and we really hear how we're feeling and why we're upset, we're able to find solutions and we're able to connect on a much deeper level. And it's really beautiful. It's really beautiful when we're able to do that.
And your target market for everything you're doing, you're speaking to young lives and helping to shape those thoughts early on, which can then have a downward effect as children grow up.
Yeah.
Learning these lessons and having them part of their world will help shape your future.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
absolutely.
Yeah, I love that.
Totally. And it is a skill. Like, it's a constant skill. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day and she was telling me about something. And that's exactly what we did. We started stripping away from the current problem and we focused on something deeper. And I shared with her my healing work that I do and how when I do that, how when someone upsets me, I take a step back, like, okay, why am I upset? Why am I getting offended?
Yeah.
And that is a skill. And as an adult, it is a conscious choice. But you think about it as kids, like going back to my nephew, he's a perfect example. Because it's my sister's child, I have had the beautiful opportunity to be sent all these amazing videos and watching him roll over and then watching him learning to crawl and then watching him learning to stand and whatnot and then watching him learn to walk. He struggled. He struggled with that first, getting to that point where he could roll over. And then he struggled with learning to crawl. And then he struggled with walking. But even though he got frustrated, he kept getting up and letting go of that frustration, letting go of those moments of I couldn't do it this time. He was able to keep repeating it. And by repeating it, he figured it out. He figured out how to roll over. He figured out how to crawl. He figured out, and he's hit every milestone and record timing. I mean, nice. He was rolling over at 2 months. I mean, he was rocking it out. I mean, I was like, whoa, another overachiever. Here we come. But what I recognized is that he didn't let the frustration get to him because he's a baby. They know how to forget about it. Even at 2, he has moments where, he'll cry, he'll get upset about stuff because now he's on to learning new skills, but he keeps moving forward and it's so beautiful. And as adults, we have to remember that. I think of how right now my current struggle is running TikTok. I imagine there's other entrepreneurs out there listening now, learning this, but I'll be honest, about a month ago, I was struggling with pitching myself to podcasts. And now I'm meeting podcasters like you left and right.
Nice.
And filling my calendar. Because once you get into that rhythm, I'm thinking, okay, Kristina, this is a rhythm and you're going to figure it out. And it's okay. You're going to figure this out.
Yeah, it's great, right? And putting yourself out there can be very intimidating because, you don't know how you're going to be perceived or how people will respond. But
Yep.
at the same time, if we as authors and podcasters or whatever, if we don't put ourselves out there, maybe people will never hear our message or never connect with us, and if one person is impacted by our story and by what we bring, then I think that's huge in the big scheme of things. And what I love too is going back to your example, uh, this this little boy trying to learn how to crawl and roll over and walk. That's a good parallel for authors, I think, too, in a sense where you just need to try and start at the basics and work your way up, right? And if you don't learn how to crawl, you're going to have a hard time walking. So start at the beginning and work your way through the process. And you're going to fall over, you're going to bump your head, you're going to trip and fall, but at the same time, you're going to be making progress. Right.
And that's actually one of the books too for Bella. One of my first 5 books that's coming out is Bella Learns to Ride a Bike. And I've used that analogy so many times for myself. I said, every day is like riding a bike as an entrepreneur. It's this constant, like, okay, I fell off, brush yourself off, get up in the next one. And it's ironic because I know I mentioned my friend was at the beginning of this conversation, and I would like to mention her again here.
Yeah.
I remember we were talking on the phone. I was going to Easter Sunday to visit my sister and, our family. And my friend Liz said to me, Kristina, you're ready. You just need to go. And she told me about her experience of riding a bike and how her brothers taught her and how they gave her a push. And that conversation propelled me to find my editor and propelled me to find my strategist. And so the riding bike analogy is very, very big. And it's something that I share constantly with people that talk to me about my journey as an entrepreneur and want to know how to get started and whatnot. And when that book comes out, like I mentioned this to Liz privately, but I'll say it here. Like I do plan to dedicate that book to her because when I think of that conversation, I was like, my ride a bike conversation that same weekend also too. It's when I discovered my pen name. My name is Kristina Lucia. That's how I was baptized. It's how I am known, legally. My legal, last name is Andrews, but I did decide that weekend too. And the first person I told this to was actually my sister. I decided to use my mom's maiden name, Pisa, as my pen name. So that way it'll be me, my mom, my grandma, and my mom on every book with me. And so again, it goes back to what you said about riding a bike. It's like by constantly getting back on that bike, I came to that resolution. Editor. That's like the step. And by finding my editor, all this other stuff, like just waterfall just came so naturally, finally. And that's when I realized, I need a pen name. And but again, it came with that, like you said, that determination to keep getting on that bike and keep pedaling and be like, nope, I'm going to stay on. I'm going to figure this out.
It's amazing. Okay. So with all the great updates that are be coming in the future, like this is evergreen content as far as the podcast. So people could be listening to this next year, 2, 3, 4 years from now. So what we'll do is keep up to date with you as far as all the show notes, because they'll have clickable links to everything. But what is the best way for people to follow along on the journey as these books come out in the future? Is it going to your website? How do we do that?
I would say go to my website. I do have a pop-up on my website for the coloring drawing that I will give you the link for. That I would like to give you a link for as a gift for your audience.
Thank you for that.
Please. Thank you. By being on my email list, I do a newsletter and I do updates in my newsletter. Like actually currently I'm working on a newsletter for this week. We're in September right now as we're recording right now, where I am saying to that audience, hey, I decided to publish, books are coming out in spring. So I would say my newsletter and my website are best. And I will give you the link for that, www.triplecokl.com. Okay. I also am on Instagram and other social media platforms. Instagram is definitely a good way. I would say my email list is the best because as well as me, the algorithms are killing me right now. So I am on, I'm not fighting it. I am on social media, like loving the process, but I do believe in the power of email. So if your listeners are I would love to have your listeners on my list. I would love to have them as part of that journey, because I do feel an intimacy in email that I don't always get on social media. And I would love to give them first dibs on the news.
I love it. So yes, everyone go sign up for the email list today. Do that right away so that you're in there. Don't miss this. And if you want one of these amazing creatures that Kristina makes, you got to reach out because they're gorgeous. And if you can't see this, then go over to our YouTube channel and you can see what I'm talking about. I'm not lying here. You have to go and get some of these. They're gorgeous. And once my wife sees these, I'm probably going to have to get one. So just so you know, so we will place our order. Thank you so much for being part of our world, being part of the podcast, and for what you do. Great. So continued success, and keep us in mind in the future as books come out, as updates come out, and you want to come back and chat more. Please come back to Living the Next Chapter. Okay.
We love that. We are so on board with you.
Bella, you take care. It's so nice to meet you again. And to all my favorite friends behind you. I can't wait to see these. And again, I love the giraffes, yellow, blue.
That's actually named after my nephew, Caleb.
I love it. They're gorgeous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kristina. Everyone, please go check out the show notes and connect. Get on that mailing list. Thank you so much. Awesome. Hey guys, thank you for listening to the podcast. Jump over to livingthenextchapter.com, our website, and you will see a spot where you can leave a voice message. We'd love to hear your feedback. We're trying to make it as easy as possible to hear from you. So if you want your voice on this podcast, yes, that's possible. Go to livingthenextchapter.com. Click the little microphone icon, leave a voice message. We'll insert your message into the podcast. Tell us where you're listening from. Tell us your favorite guest. Maybe there's a guest we should have on the podcast. Maybe you should be our next guest. Leave us a message. livingthenextchapter.com. Again, thank you so much for listening. Please share this podcast episode with one person. That's all we're asking. Meet you over there at livingthenextchapter.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Love to hear from you. Till the next episode. It's coming up right away. Be sure you hit that subscribe button. Thank you for being part of Living the Next Chapter. Thank you for supporting our guests. Have a great day.